We've all been there, right? You're just watching your dog and bam, they're barking like crazy at, well, at what looks like absolutely nothing. Blank wall, maybe an empty corner, just thin air. And even knowing how sharp their senses are, you still kind of wonder, what is going on in their world?
Yeah.
What are they actually perceiving?
It is that classic canine mystery, isn't it? That exact moment when you realize their reality is just so much richer, maybe, than ours.
Yeah.
And you're left wondering, are they hearing something, seeing something, something totally invisible to us?
Exactly. And that's really our mission for this deep dive. We want to decode those mystery barks.
Yeah.
We're going to unpack some of the surprising science, look at the common reasons behind what seems like random barking, and hopefully turn those moments where you're just scratching your head into real aha insights.
Right. Get some clarity.
Yeah, help you understand your dog better, maybe get some practical ways to deal with unwanted barking. We want to go from, what on earth are they barking at, to, oh, okay, that's what's happening.
And that shift from being confused to actually understanding, it's so important, because the fundamental thing here, the absolute baseline, is that dogs don't really bark at nothing.
Right. It feels like nothing to us.
Precisely. What seems like empty space or total silence to us.
Well, for them, it's often full of very real, very distinct stimuli. They just perceive their environment through, incredibly different sensory channels, much more acute than ours.
Okay, so let's get into those channels, because this is where it gets really fascinating, right? They're superpowers, you could say. Let's start with the big one, smell. We all know dogs have great noses, but just how different is it?
Oh, it's staggering, honestly. The dog's sense of smell is by far their most dominant sense. Estimates put it at up to 100,000 times more powerful than a human's.
100,000 times. That's hard to even imagine.
It really is. And the biology behind it is amazing. They've got roughly, get this, 2 billion olfactory receptors. We have about 40 million.
Wow. Okay. 2 billion versus 40 million. Yeah. Plus, a much larger chunk of their brain is just dedicated to interpreting smells. And they have that special organ, the vomeronasal organ, sometimes called Jacobson's organ, specifically for detecting pheromones.
So with that kind of hardware, what does it actually mean for their day-to-day? How does that translate?
It means that bark at an empty wall. It might not be random at all. It could be their little alarm system going off because of a scent trail we'd never, ever notice. Or maybe the lingering smell of someone who walked past hours ago. It's like this whole unseen story unfolding right there. They can smell someone coming down the street way before they see them.
Right.
They pick up on unfamiliar smells we're completely oblivious to. And get this, some dogs can even detect medical issues in people, like an oncoming seizure or a drop in blood sugar. So that bark, it could literally be an alert to something unseen, maybe even a potential danger.
That really does shift how you think about it. Okay, what about hearing? Just as impressive.
Absolutely. Dogs have incredibly keen hearing. They can pick up sounds maybe 4 times further away than we can.
4?
Yeah. And their ears themselves are just designed for it. They've got, I think it's around 15 different muscles that let them move each ear independently, like in all directions. Helps them zero in on sounds.
Little radar dishes.
Pretty much. So it's not just hearing more, it's hearing better and from much farther away.
Okay. So what kind of sounds are we talking about?
Well, things like distant sirens that are totally below our radar, or, high-pitched noises from electronic devices that we just can't register. Even really subtle sounds like mice or rats or squirrels, even cockroaches moving inside the walls.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So that mysterious bark at the wall, it might just be your dog saying, hey, I think we've got tiny roommates.
Okay, note to self. Call pest control if that happens. Now, what about eyesight? There's that common idea they're colorblind, but how true is that, and what are their visual strengths?
Yeah, the colorblind thing is mostly a misconception. They don't see color the same way we do. It's more limited, maybe like blues and yellows. But their field of vision doesn't overlap quite as much as ours, so maybe less sharp focus straight ahead. But they do get a wider overall view.
Okay.
And their night vision, definitely better than ours. They have this extra reflective layer in the eye, the tapetum lucidum. It bounces light back to the receptor cells. That's what gives their eyes that kind of glow in the dark.
Okay, so they're genuinely seeing more when it's dim and movement. Are they quick to spot things?
Incredibly quick. Exceptionally good at noticing movement. They can apparently detect it up to half a mile away.
Half a mile.
Yeah. It's a big reason why they're so good at things like police work, military roles, and just, being guard dogs at home. They're constantly scanning, and even just a tiny shift in light or a shadow moving can grab their attention.
Which I guess leads to that question a lot of people wonder about. Can dogs sense ghosts or the supernatural? Is that what's happening with some of these mystery barks?
It's a really fascinating thought, right? And people ask it all the time. Now, scientifically speaking, there isn't concrete evidence that dogs sense, ghosts or spirits in the way we think about them.
Right.
But because their senses are so incredibly heightened, things that are completely unseen or unheard by us are very real stimuli for them. Some pet psychologists suggest dogs don't really judge their environment like we do. They just react.
So what might they be reacting to that seems like a ghost to us?
Well, it could be subtle changes in barometric pressure before a storm, maybe tiny vibrations, or even unrecognized sounds, like a weird frequency from a faulty appliance that's totally silent to us. So they react to that, and because we can't perceive the source, it looks like they're barking at an empty space, or maybe reacting to some unseen entity or energy.
Yeah. So the ghost bark is probably just hyper-tuned senses picking up something mundane we missed.
That's the most likely explanation, yeah. It just shows how much richer and more detailed their sensory world is compared to ours. And their barks are often just their way of saying, hey, did you hear, smell, see that?
That makes a lot more sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so with all these super senses creating this detailed world for them, barking is obviously a really natural way for them to communicate. But beyond just detecting stuff, what are the common reasons why they bark? What are they trying to tell us?
Right, because it is communication. Barking is a primary tool for dogs to express emotions, needs, warnings. Understanding the why is absolutely the key if you want to address excessive barking.
Okay, let's break down some common whys. Most obvious one first, alerting.
Yes, alert barking, very common. Signaling someone's at the door, reacting to strange noises outside, maybe even just the wind blowing a branch against the window. It often comes from a protective instinct, which is good, but it can easily escalate if it's not managed.
Yeah, the dog that barks at everything. And what about when it feels like they're just barking at you?
Yeah.
To get something.
Oh, yeah. Attention-seeking or boredom barking, absolutely. Dogs will bark to get your attention, maybe ask for food or playtime, or just to release pent-up energy if they're feeling understimulated or, ignored.
What are the signs for that one?
You might see them following you around, maybe nudging you with a toy, whining, acting restless, chewing things they shouldn't, lots of sighing, or even destructive behavior. They're basically shouting, hey, I'm bored, pay attention to me.
Okay, that definitely sounds familiar. What about fear or anxiety?
Barking is a very common reaction to things that scare them or make them anxious. Think fireworks, thunderstorms, meeting new people, going to new places.
And you can usually see it in their body language too, right?
Exactly. Look for cues like the tail tucked low or between the legs, maybe trembling, ears back, or piloerection. That's when the hair on their neck and back stands up. All signs pointing towards fear.
And related to anxiety, separation anxiety. That's a big one for barking, especially puppies, right?
A huge one. Excessive barking or howling when left alone is a classic sign. It really shows a deep discomfort, sometimes panic, about being solitary.
Then there's the guard dog instinct. Territorial barking.
Yep. Barking fiercely when strangers, people, or even other animals enter what they see as their territory. That could be the yard, the house, even the car. Think about barking at passersby.
And finally, just social barking, like joining in.
Yeah, sometimes it's social. Barking because they hear other dogs barking in the neighborhood. Or it could just be out of general frustration, kind of like how we might groan or yell if we're annoyed about something. It's part of that pack mentality, even if the pack is spread out.
Okay, so there are so many potential reasons. The real trick for us owners is figuring out which one applies to our dog in that moment. How do we even start decoding our own dog's barks?
Observation is everything. You really have to become a bit of a detective. Watch your dog's behavior closely. Look at their body language. Is that tail wagging nervously, stiffly, or is it a big, loose, happy wag?
Context matters too, I assume.
Huge context. What time of day is it? What just happened? What seems to be the trigger? How long does the barking last? How intense is it? Every little detail is a clue.
And the actual sound of the bark can tell you something too, can it? Like different tones.
Absolutely. Think about it. A low growl often serves as a warning, right? It signals potential threat. That's actually useful communication.
Yeah, better than no warning.
Exactly. Then you have high-pitched yelps or whines. Those often mean pain or fear, maybe distress. And then those rapid-fire, often high-pitched barks, that usually signals alertness, excitement, or some kind of urgency, like, quick, look. Each tone gives you another piece of the puzzle about what they're feeling.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of the, let's call them normal reasons dogs bark. But sometimes it signals something more serious, right? Like a medical issue or maybe cognitive problems.
Yes, and it's crucial to recognize when barking might move beyond typical behavior into something else. We need to be aware of conditions like canine compulsive disorder or CCD.
CCD, okay, what does that involve?
It's basically when normal dog behaviors like barking, licking, chasing their tail are performed in a really extreme, repetitive, almost uncontrollable way. It gets to the point where it genuinely interferes with their ability to function normally.
So for barking specifically,
Yeah.
what would CCD look like? How is it different from just a lot of barking?
You might see relentless, patterned barking that goes on for hours, often with no obvious external trigger. It becomes this sort of obsessive loop they can't easily break out of. It's not just frequent barking, it's the compulsive nature of it.
Are there other compulsive behaviors that might go along with it?
Yes, things like flank sucking, especially in Dobermans, or constant licking, maybe air licking, or that repetitive spinning and tail chasing you sometimes see, particularly in breeds like German Shepherds or Bull Terriers.
Is there a known cause? Genetics.
Research is ongoing, but yeah, there definitely seem to be genetic links for certain breeds and certain behaviors. Studies are also looking into things like altered serotonin levels in the brain, similar to OCD in humans.
That's really interesting. Does knowing there might be a biological component change how you'd approach it?
It can, yes. If there's a suspected biological or neurological basis, treatment often involves a combination approach, behavioral modification, plus sometimes medication to help regulate brain chemistry, similar to how human anxiety or OCD might be treated.
Okay.
But it's also important to remember that CCD can sometimes stem from or be exacerbated by really extreme reactions to things like lack of stimulation, physical or mental, high anxiety, frustration, or not getting enough attention. It's complex. It's about the intensity and the lack of control.
And then there's the other CCD, canine cognitive dysfunction, which people often call doggy dementia.
Yeah.
That sounds incredibly tough.
It really is. For both the dog and the owner, it's very similar to dementia in humans and mostly affects senior dogs. Though you can sometimes see signs starting as early as age 7, it becomes much more common in dogs age 10 and up.
And how does barking fit into dementia symptoms? Does it sound different?
You might notice a definite increase in barking, or maybe whining or howling, often for what seems like absolutely no reason. A classic sign is barking more at night, that phenomenon called sundowning.
Sundowning, right.
Yeah. And sometimes they might stare blankly at walls or ceilings and bark, almost as if they're seeing things that aren't there, like hallucinations.
Oh, that's heartbreaking. What other signs should owners look out for if they suspect dementia, besides the barking?
There are quite a few, unfortunately. Disorientation is a big one. Getting lost in familiar places like their own house or yard, bumping into furniture, seeming confused, maybe standing in corners, or forgetting which side of the door opens.
Okay.
Changes in sleep-wake cycles are also really common, pacing around anxiously at night, but then sleeping way more during the day.
What about how they interact with people?
Altered interactions, definitely. Maybe not recognizing familiar family members, or they might become unusually clingy or conversely more irritable or even aggressive towards people or other pets they used to get along with. Sometimes just reduced affection or interaction.
And house training accidents.
Yes, house soiling is very common, almost like they forget their training or can't control it anymore. Changes in appetite, too, forgetting they just ate and acting starving or maybe drinking excessive amounts of water. And just general sensory decline, like deafness or blindness, can also be part of it.
It's so important to remember these aren't behavioral issues in the usual sense.
Exactly. This isn't your dog suddenly deciding to misbehave.
Yeah.
These are symptoms of a progressive medical condition, and it absolutely needs veterinary attention.
Okay, this is a lot to process, but really vital for understanding our dogs, especially as they age. So when we do identify barking issues, whether it seems behavioral or potentially medical like CCD or dementia, what are the practical steps? How do we help our dogs and, frankly, ourselves? What's step one?
Step 1, absolutely, unequivocally, is talk to your vet.
Right, before anything else.
Yes. For any persistent or unusual barking, especially if you see confusion, disorientation, or other changes, a vet visit is crucial. They need to rule out underlying medical problems, first things like chronic pain, maybe hearing or vision loss, neurological issues. They can also help diagnose CCD or dementia.
What should you bring to the vet?
Be prepared. Give them detailed observations. Note down when the barking happens, how often, what seems to trigger it. Videos can be incredibly helpful too. The more information you provide, the better they can diagnose the issue.
Makes perfect sense. Okay, so assuming medical issues are ruled out, or maybe it's a known behavioral problem,
Yeah.
how do we tackle it with training or modification? Let's go back to that alert barking, the hey, someone's at the door bark.
Right. For alert barking, the first thing is actually to acknowledge your dog's signal. You don't want to punish them for alerting you, but you want to manage it. So maybe a calm, okay, thank you, I hear it.
Acknowledge, then redirect.
Exactly. Acknowledge, then redirect their attention to something else, something appropriate, like going to their mat or getting a toy. You also want to teach a quiet command or maybe a settle or relax cue. Reward the silence.
What about desensitizing them, like to the doorbell?
Definitely. Desensitization and counter-conditioning are key. Associate that trigger, the doorbell, knocking with something positive like a high-value treat. The goal is to change their automatic reaction from barking to maybe looking at you for guidance or feeling happy because treats might appear.
Changing the emotional response. Got it. Now, what about that attention-seeking or boredom barking? That can be really hard to ignore.
It is hard, but you absolutely must not reward the barking itself. Instead, you have to reinforce the quiet behavior.
How do you even start that if they're barking constantly?
You start small. Reward even a split second of silence between barks. Clicker training can be great for this. Mark that tiny moment of quiet, then reward. Gradually increase the duration they need to be quiet to get their reward.
And address the underlying boredom too, right?
Critically important, make sure they're getting enough physical exercise walks, fetch, running, and just as vital is mental stimulation. Puzzle toys, snuffle mats, learning new tricks, hide and seek with toys or treats, maybe even dog sports like agility or regular play dates. A tired, mentally engaged dog is much less likely to bark out of boredom.
Okay. Now, what if fear or anxiety is the driver, like during thunderstorms or fireworks?
The priority there is safety and security. Create a safe haven for your dog, a crate with a comfy bed, maybe a closet, or just a quiet corner where they feel protected. Play calming music or white noise.
And can you desensitize them to those scary things too?
You can, but it takes time and patience. You need to expose them to the trigger, say, a recording of thunder at a very low volume, far below their fear threshold, while giving them amazing treats or playing their favorite game. Very gradually increase the intensity only if they remain calm and happy. You're trying to build a positive association. Playing something like tug of war can also help build confidence during stressful times.
And for separation anxiety, that awful barking when they're alone.
Again, exercise before you leave is key. A good walk or run can help. Then, focus on gradual departures. Start by leaving for literally just 10-20 seconds, then come back calmly. Slowly increase the time only if they stay relaxed. Make your departures and arrivals low-key, not big emotional events. The goal is to teach them that being alone is safe and you always come back.
What about the territorial dogs, the ones guarding the fence line?
That requires active management and training. Supervise them when they're in the yard or wherever they get territorial. Interrupt the barking before it escalates. Call them to you. Reward them for coming. Practice obedience cues like leave it or look at me in increasingly distracting situations, teaching them to focus on you instead of the trigger outside.
You mentioned counter-conditioning earlier. Can you explain that a bit more generally?
Sure, counter-conditioning is basically changing the dog's emotional response to a trigger. Instead of feeling anxious or territorial when they see another dog, you want them to feel happy and relaxed because good things happen, like treats, when another dog appears at a distance where they can cope.
So expose them at a low level and reward for not reacting.
Exactly. You pair the presence of the trigger with something wonderful, gradually getting closer as they stay calm. And like we mentioned, sometimes just playing background music or white noise can help manage things by muffling some of those external sounds that might trigger barking.
Okay, so beyond the direct training, what about just managing their environment? Can simple changes help?
Definitely. Environmental management is a huge piece of the puzzle. If your dog barks constantly at people or dogs walking past the window, well, maybe restrict their access to that window when you're not there to supervise. Close the blinds or use window film.
Or use it as a training opportunity when you're there.
Right. When you can supervise, you can use those moments, cars passing, people walking by, to practice rewarding calm behavior. Open the windows or blinds and reward them for staying quiet as the trigger passes.
And routine seems important, especially for anxious dogs or seniors.
Incredibly important. A predictable daily routine for feeding, walks, playtime, and quiet time can significantly reduce anxiety and stress, which often leads to less barking. For dogs with dementia, consistency is even more critical. Keep their bed, bowls, familiar toys in the same place. Use baby gates if needed to prevent them from wandering into unsafe areas or getting stuck. And things like doggy diapers or belly bands can really help manage incontinence, reducing stress for everyone.
So pulling this all together, if you're an owner struggling with barking, what's the most important mindset to have? What's the key to making progress?
Patience and consistency. These things take time. There's rarely a quick fix for persistent barking. Everyone in the household needs to be on the same page with the training plan.
And avoid punishment, right?
Absolutely crucial. Avoid yelling, startling devices, or any harsh methods. These often make fear and anxiety worse, can damage your bond with your dog, and they don't address the underlying reason for the barking. Positive reinforcement rewarding the behavior you want is always the most effective and humane approach. It builds trust and communication. Think of it like you're having a conversation with your dog, trying to understand them, not just shut them up.
That's a great way to put it. And finally, for those dealing with the really tough situation of senior dogs with dementia, what's important to keep in mind regarding their well-being?
With dementia, always work closely with your vet. There are medications, things like selegiline, sometimes gabapentin or trazodone for anxiety, and supplements like MCT oil, fish oil, maybe melatonin for sleep that can help manage symptoms. But these must be vet prescribed and monitored.
And quality of life becomes a major consideration.
It does. It's so important to honestly assess their quality of life. Recognize that cognitive decline and the associated anxiety and confusion cause real suffering, just as much as physical pain can. It means having those incredibly difficult conversations, sometimes about end-of-life care, to ensure your dog maintains dignity and comfort and isn't enduring prolonged mental distress. Supporting owners through that is vital, too.
Wow. Okay, so we really journeyed from that seemingly simple bark at nothing all the way to understanding this incredibly complex world of canine senses, communication, emotions, and even cognitive changes. It's much deeper than just noise.
It absolutely is. And hopefully moving from that place of confusion or frustration to one of understanding that was the goal of this deep dive. It's about really tuning into their world, which is just so much more intricate and expressive than a simple woof might suggest.
So maybe the next time your dog seems to be barking at nothing, just pause for a second. Consider what hidden world they might actually be trying to share with you. What could you learn? What story might unfold if you really tried to tune into their unique perspective?